ticky-tacky little boxes on the hillside.
So, if it's not the politicians in charge, is it big business pulling the strings? If that's the case, we're in big trouble.
They're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same.
Harry Triguboff is the biggest property developer in the country. And for him, a big Australia is never big enough.
I'd like to see 100 million, because I believe we'll have many things to do here besides drilling holes and selling coal. I mean, our agriculture has to be huge. Our desalination must be fantastic. Our rivers must flow the right way. I mean, it'll all have to be developed.
And they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same.
If Harry has his way, we'll be concreting over our national parks to make room.
Nowhere in the world do you have parks in the middle of the city. That's what we have here. And they're huge parks. So if we want the city to be efficient, then we have to make the parks smaller.
It's all been kept secret. It's amazing people say, oh, don't talk about population, you'll be declared a racist. And I said, what's it got to do with racism? It's nothing to do with it.
1300 681 666. Dick Smith says it's time to have a discussion about this. It's the elephant in the room that's not talked about. Are you comfortable, though, with the immigration debate? And this has Australians of various skin colour being fronted by other Australians with T-shirts like F off, we're full. Yeah. And we grew here, you flew here. How do you tackle this issue and avoid the tag of that kind of ugly racism?
Well, it's absolutely nothing to do with racism. If I ask for our immigration to come down to 70,000, obviously on a totally non-discriminatory way. Personally, I believe our humanitarian intake, which is very low, I believe that should double. That will have no measurable difference in our population, but it has nothing to do with racism at all. Why would you want to bring people here if they can't have a good life in the future? By the way, can I just ask you something? I've given what people would call a controversial speech, that we should have a plan for population in Australia. If you agree with me, put up your hand. Is there anyone who disagrees? Oh, come on.
The population of Australia is projected to reach 36 million by 2050, but the Greens say the nation can't sustain that many people. Speaking earlier on ABC News Breakfast, demographer Bernard Salt said Australia's character would change if it cut immigration.
We are an immigrant nation, have been for 100 years, and I think we will be for another 100 years. And it gives us our sort of can-do, young, vital, vibrant society.
I'm keen to meet this Bernard Salt. No one does more boosting for a big Australia than Bernard. The media always call him a demographer, but he isn't. He's got a history degree. And usually they forget to mention he's a partner for the multinational consulting firm KPMG. It's interesting, I'm told that a good public speaker always tells an audience what they want to hear. And that's going to be a bit difficult today, I can tell you. Bernard's addressing the Property Council of Australia, and they've let me give a talk too. Believe me, they don't get much more pro-growth than this. That most people know that one day we'll reach a limit in the population carrying capacity of the finite world. Not all people, of course. My friend Bernard Salt sent me an email and I'll read it to you. Hi, Dick. I'm not clear on what you mean by the statement that we cannot have growth always. Are you an advocate of nil growth? ? That Australia's population should stabilise. If this is the case, then I cannot support that point of view. For a start, one day, even Bernard has to admit, when we've got 10 billion in Australia, one day he's going to say, enough's enough, we actually have to run our economy...
10 billion, you reckon?
Well, he'd have to say it one day, but we can't keep Bernard Salt is the one always warning us that we need new immigrants to pay the pensions of the retiring baby boomers.
And the only way that we can fund the baby boomers in their number and in their expectations of lifestyle is by growing the tax base. Now, we can either ask Generation X and Generation Y to pay more tax, which is not going to be very popular, or we can attract more taxpayers, and that is the basis to the Big Australia. That is why I think we are pursuing Big Australia.
There's an ageing population, so let's get more young people, immigrants in, who will be paying taxes and working. The only thing is that huge bubble of 2.1% last year, one of the highest increases in the world, incredibly high, that then gets old. So then no doubt someone says, let's get more people in to solve that problem.
We drag taxpayers in their 20s. They don't get sick. They don't want an age pension, and they pay tax for 40 years. It's a short-term stopgap solution to the tax issue we have with the retirement of the baby boomers.
But one of Australia's most respected economic commentators isn't buying it.
Increased immigration is actually not a very satisfactory way to cope with the ageing of the population. I think, by the way, that the ageing of the population is an exaggerated problem, especially in Australia. Our pensions are means tested and they're flat rate. Doesn't matter what you used to earn. If you're eligible for the pension, you get whatever it is, $300 a week or whatever the figure is, and everyone gets the same, and that's not a lot of money. We're much better off to face it, I think, than take all the extra costs that are associated with letting in lots more people when we can't adequately supply the infrastructure for the people we've already got.
Everyone's always worrying that Australia's an ageing society. It's as if we oldies give nothing back to the community. Economists don't value the huge contribution older people make in volunteering and in helping out. So how old is Charlie Brown?
Only one.
Only one?
That's why.
And while the costs of crime are added to the GDP, looking after the grandkids doesn't count. Are you eating the frog? If we're really so worried, then we can do a whole lot more to encourage older Australians to contribute their wisdom and experience. G'day! People like Ron Bloom. He's 74 and has no intention of slowing down. Someone's told me that you basically were thrown on the scrap heap, which is normal when you're 65, but you started your own business.
I did. Yes, I got tired of doing nothing, and I thought everybody has to keep going because otherwise you age too quickly.
So what you're... Ron didn't feel like waiting around to pickle. So he started a successful printer supply company. Sold it and got himself re-employed by the new owners. Now tell me, you've had a career in computers, so you have got good knowledge, but at 65, when you went to Centrelink, you couldn't actually get a job. Is that because employers just write off people who are in their 60s?
Yeah. You see, the funny thing is that when you're in your 60s, they think, oh, God, he may not last long, but they don't realise that a 25-year-old also may only be there for 6 months, in fact, more likely.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, this is the thing. So, yeah, I don't know why they look at it that way, unfortunately, because there's a lot of knowledge up there in these 55-plus-year-olds. What a shame. What a waste.